everyone is coming into the room. Hey, Mallory.
Hello. Hi, Earl.
I see Becky Todd. I see some familiar faces. What's up, everyone? Good morning. All right. Well, it looks like we're all here right now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the NIRSA Ideas in Motion virtual roundtable on student professional development. I'm your host, Earl Cabellon. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm from the University of Maryland, College Park, and I am honored to facilitate today's session. I want to first start off by giving a shout out to Aaron O'Sullivan at NIRSA HQ for having this opportunity to lead this virtual roundtable. I know there are many people that are members of NIRSA that are very appreciative of this and all of the work that Aaron and Pam, our executive director, and the rest of the HQ staff are doing during this time. We're going to do some introductions. I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy here in a bit. But before we do that, let's just go over some housekeeping items. Today with me, I have two fantastic guest speakers who will be engaging us in this topic, and I'll let them introduce them here in a second. But before we start, we just have some general reminders. This session will be recorded and posted on the NIRSA website. So if you haven't gone, I would highly recommend that you check it out. If you go to the NIRSA page, go to the Connect tab, scroll all the way down, and you'll see all these virtual roundtables that are happening within the months of April and March. If this is your first Zoom experience, no worries. When you entered in the room, everyone should be muted. So just make sure that your Zoom is muted during this time. And then if you scroll to the bottom, there's the ability to have a chat. So if you haven't already, open up that chat box and write questions, share links or any comments that you have. There is a raise your hand feature, and I don't know if many people have been using it, but if you need to grab our attention, you can use that feature as well. Or, if you just want to jump in and unmute yourself, you can do that too. Again, this is pretty fluid. And then finally, NIRSA is all about sharing. So again, share your resources in the chat box and in NIRSA Connect as well. So just some community guidelines for participation for this morning. Everyone's ideas and opinions matters in this space. And so we all come from different places and do things differently. And that's what makes us great. So respect the diversity of perspective from others. Don't be shy. NIRSA members are typically not shy, but again, we welcome all ideas. And we want this to be an information-rich discussion. And so as a reminder too, this is a non-judgment space. And so all ideas are welcome. We also want to remind you that this is not a webinar and we're not presenting on student development as a whole. But our goal is really just to have some conversations around student development, learning, and assessment. And then as just another reminder that student staff development is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And we recognize that many people in our audience today come from smaller schools that aren't as resourced as some of the larger schools. I know for myself, Chrissy, and Matt, there are dedicated HR, student development, training professionals that are responsible for those types of items, where we know that there are some schools where the program area managers are responsible for their own student staff development. So we're being mindful of that today. But one thing that we do agree on is that we want all of our student employees to be successful post-graduation through the transferable skills that they learn through employment. And so I think we can all agree that that is a major goal that we all have. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy and have her share her screen for a quick activity. So take it away, Chrissy.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christy from UC Berkeley. I oversee staff training and development and the student experience for our student and non-student employees. I'm going to take us quickly into just a quick exercise that doesn't have anything to do with student development, but it allows for us to kind of set the tone for the meeting today. So what I'm going to ask you to do quickly is go to menti.com and then enter the code that you'll see on your screen. You can access this from your tablet, your iPhone, your smartphone, your computer, wherever you want to access from. And then I will, oh, it looks like you all are already engaging, which is awesome. So I'll give everyone just another maybe 10 seconds to get onto the website. It looks like someone has a question, so if you want to unmute yourself and ask that question to me, I'm happy to troubleshoot. And if not, then we will keep going. Love the engagement, everyone. Okay, so first, go ahead and just type in who's here. I know you already have shared that into the chat function, but if you could just go ahead and share, you'll be able to see on the screen. It becomes really engaging and interactive. Oh, we see some popping up. And I want to say a special thank you and welcome to our West Coast family. I also am on the West Coast. It is early, the sun just rose where I am, which is pretty unique these days to be up in time to watch the sunrise. But very grateful for you all joining us today. Oh, I'm loving all of this. Okay, so I'll give everyone another 10 seconds to type in where you're from, who you are. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome, see some familiar names. So welcome, and it's so great to show that, you know, I think we have over 130 or 40 people on the call right now, which is just so great. So thank you all for coming out and being with us this morning. So next, where are you? We're all working remote. So let's just see where we're at. Lots of us in our living rooms, lots of us all over the house, it seems, mostly in the bedroom or in the living room den. Awesome. I'm gonna give everyone 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I know we're all competitive. 4, 3, 2. Okay. And how are we feeling today? I know this is a time that's really uncertain and can be stressful. So just feel free in being transparent with how you're feeling. And so as you all may know, with word clouds, the larger the size of the text, that's the most common theme of how we're all feeling. So tired, yes. Overwhelmed, yes. That's the common theme of my conversations these days with my students and with our staff members, or with our staff members on the team, is, you know, overwhelmed. Anxious, I think optimistic is a good one. Uncertain, yes. Happy, fantastic. Appreciative. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Well, I think it's just great to take a moment and look at this and know that if you're feeling any of these types of ways, that, you know, at least, you know, there's 124 people that are also possibly feeling that same way. So I think it's really nice to just really resonate with that we're all going through this together and we're all trying to make it through. So with that, I am gonna stop sharing my screen and get back to Earl.
Right. Thank you, Chrissy. I've never used Menti, so, you know, definitely going to check that out after this. So thank you for sharing with that. All right, so let's get into more questions. What do you want to get out of this today? Chrissy and Matt and I really talked about, what we wanted to get out of this for you all. And so in the chat box, go ahead and type in just some of the things that you were expecting today so we can be mindful of trying to hit those. Anna says ideas about professional development, ideas for remote staff work, sharing ideas, virtual engagement. Aubrey Jones, what's going on from GW, right down the street from me. How do we connect with our student employees better during this time? Jairo Cruz, my professional intern from the University of Maryland, how to creatively engage with students. Okay. A lot of virtual trainings, supporting students. Becky Todd, what's going on? Okay. Well, again, I think we are going to try to hit most of these today. So keep on coming with those chats, and then we'll continue to look through those throughout the webinar. So we wanted to add at least some structure to this virtual roundtable and be intentional about the focus for today. But we do want to be clear that we're going to kind of stay away from some of the comments about COVID-19, such as symptoms, quarantine responses. We recognize this is happening, and there will be some time to share on that, but that's not going to be the main focus of today. We're going to try to steer away from too much of the logistics and in the weeds kind of things. We're around HR policies within student development. Again, everyone has a different situation in terms of their institution and what they're resourced with, so we're going to be mindful of that. And then finally, we're not the student development police. We're not here to say what is and what isn't a good idea. Many people have formal student development theory within their educational wheelhouse. I myself don't. But I know Chrissy and Matt and I talked about this. Matt does, and Chrissy and I don't. And so we just want to be mindful that both can coexist in this space within collegiate recreation. So again, our focus of today is really professional development ideas to implement when you return to campus. So maybe taking some of these ideas that we're talking about today and then working on those to get ready to implement maybe in the fall or the summertime. And then again, ideas for engaging students remotely, which is what we've heard from folks in the chat boxes. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mercy to talk a little bit about the initiative that they've started that might be helpful as we start today's conversation.
Yeah, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew Altendorf. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm from Ohio State University, where I'm the coordinator for student staff training and development. I first want to say we're really glad that Earl invited Christy and myself to be a part of this conversation. This is something Christy and I have been talking a little bit about for a long time, for how to get people engaged in a lot of these topics across NIRSA. So we kind of came together as thought partners in thinking about student development as we kept calling each other, and we realized that this is kind of interspersed throughout all of our work. It doesn't matter if you're in a particular position like Christy and I are, and that this is what we do on a daily basis for our job, but everybody is an educator that works in our field. And so we're trying to think of how do we best create a thriving community within the NIRSA network for us to share best practices and resources. So Christy and I are starting to launch a kind of student development initiative that we know there's some on this call we've already started to engage, but we're also looking to engage more people.
Yeah, so again, I realized I forgot to share my personal pronouns, so she, her, hers. And yeah, so anyone can be involved. You don't have to have your role be specifically in staff training and development, student staff training and development. Like Matthew mentioned, we have a lot of people on the call that I saw as I was scrolling through the participants that already are in touch with us, but we would love to grow this community that we've started developing. So if you'd like to get involved, just go ahead and contact us so we can put you on our listserv and keep connecting with you. There's going to be lots of interesting ways to get involved, and more will come out about that in the near future. But we are looking forward to hearing from anyone and everyone who wants to get involved. Feel free to share with your colleagues if you know someone who's passionate about this and may want to join our conversation. So yeah, stay tuned for more from us in the future. Oh, Earl, seems you're muted.
Thank you. So we're going to just dive into some of the topics that we've discussed as a group. And so a lot of these are going to bleed over into some of the things that I'm seeing in the chat box. So let's just kick it off with technology, because I think that I'm seeing a lot of people commenting about technology and engaging remotely, and maybe talking about some platforms. So let me just open up the floor, and maybe Chrissy and Matt, maybe you could start us off. And then if you want to unmute yourself, raise your hand, cool, jump in. But what technology platforms are you using to engage with your staff? Matt, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So at Ohio State, we are kind of pigeonholed into what we can use by our university. And so we were formerly on Canvas, and we were told that that was just an academic space. And so we've moved over into a technology called Cornerstone On Demand, which I know kind of a lot of HR units will use that to put out videos. Right now, I'm in the process of revamping all of our student onboarding. So I know some people have where they'll have onboarding somewhat in person, some of it's online. Ours is going to be just online, but then the in-person onboarding will happen in their specific area with their supervisor. But we will have the online training be done through a software called Camtasia, where you can record your screen, you can make short videos, record voiceovers, and so I found that to be pretty helpful. Chrissy, what about you?
Yeah, so I would say we're pretty new to the technology game in terms of engaging with our student employees. We are looking to identify a content management system for online trainings. That would be our long-term goal, is to get to online. I think something that we deal with or we're trying to navigate the course of is identifying software that's accessible to both student and non-student staffs. For us, that's a priority of migrating our trainings online and ensuring that all staff of all capacities are able to access that training. So that's one thing that's kind of putting us in the holding space. So if anyone has ideas on that, particularly people who work within the UC system, but something that we are moving towards that's spurred from this COVID-19 shelter in place recommendation is virtual new employee orientations. So when we get back to a space of doing new employee orientations, we'll be moving to do Zoom. So offer Zoom calls as an option. So that's kind of the earliest in terms of technology that we're using. Obviously we use the Google Suite, but in terms of training and development and professional development, we're still kind of early into that space.
Great. So I see a couple comments, and I don't know, if you don't want to comment or unmute yourself, that's cool. But Ali Hughes and Courtney Roex, you guys are using Slack. And I'm wondering if anyone on this chat wants to unmute themselves and share a little bit about what that is for those who aren't familiar with it.
Hey, Ali Hughes. We're using Slack, and we actually started using it during the semester before this, and it was a way that I could keep in contact with both our outdoor rental shop, and our trip leaders with their updates. And so then now what that has kind of morphed into for us is we're sending these updated emails and we're trying to keep them in contact, but for a lot of the faster ping of messages, Slack has been really good. They're doing polls themselves in their, crunchy peanut butter versus smooth, and what should I be doing when I'm stuck inside, kind of mini polls, but it's kind of kept the community together as well as just a faster way for us to give them shorter updates since they may be, overwhelmed with their classes.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you. Anyone else in the chat using Slack that wants to comment? Or any other technology that you all are using? Maybe something that hasn't been talked about, like we've heard from Zoom, we've seen WebEx. Any other type of technology platforms you're using to engage?
Oh, so whoever is using Connect2 for student professional development and training, I would love to hear more, either if you want to speak to it now on the call, or if you want to just shoot me a quick note, either via email or through this chat. That would be ideal, because we recently have moved to Connect2. So I'd be interested to learn how you're utilizing that for student professional development or training.
This is Corinne Pruitt from West Virginia University. We utilize Connect2 for almost everything that we do, at least within operations, and that's bleeding over into competitive sports and aquatics. But right now, because of everything that's happening, they're offering a lot of certifications. So their champion certification starts up next week. That's a series that you can be a part of. They also have different modules similar to this based on program area that dives into some more specifics. So just providing that opportunity to some of your student leaders that might be utilizing it in an administrative capacity, just kind of sharing it with them. But I'm happy to send you the links to all of those and what that schedule looks like.
Awesome, thank you.
Andrew Yorkie from UCSB. We're utilizing the SOP function, so the standard operating procedures, and putting videos into there, so letting our students know how to use different things. So if they forget, they can go back into Connect2 and look at that and reference that for later times.
Awesome, thank you.
I got a message from Aaron Brooks, and Aaron, forgive me if I'm putting you on the spot. You're using House Party to connect with your students. If you can either chat some more information on that or message me directly. But I'm curious to know what that app is to create engagement with your students.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Aaron Brooks from the University of Akron. We are, I actually learned about House Party like 3 or 4 years ago. It's a simple cross-platform app that can be on any really smart device. You can download it to a desktop, any tablet that you might have. And so with everything going on, we've actually been off campus for almost 2 full weeks now. And we've missed out on some different trainings, staff meetings. So we are still going forward with all of our supervisor meetings that we have bi-weekly. And then different meetings that we have, I'm actually setting up so that my students can, like during certain hours of the day, if they want to pop in and say hi, because most of the time they just stop in and say hi anyways during the office hours. So we've used it to have our actual supervisor meetings. It's really unique because you can play games on it. We've done different things where we're able to just have a little bit of competitive nature amongst us. As intramural folk, we're very competitive by nature. So it just gives us an opportunity to stay connected. It gives us an opportunity to still teach, to still be there for my students, and just to kind of see them, whereas we're not really able to see anybody outside of Zoom meetings.
Great. Thank you, Aaron, for sharing that. Anyone else? I'm curious about LinkedIn Learning, and it's something that our university is offering. I'm wondering if anyone can speak to utilizing that platform as a form of engagement with students. I see Erica Unra has used it. Anyone else?
Yep, this is Erica from Penn State University. So hello, everyone. We started using LinkedIn Learning. We launched it out a week ago. And so we have identified courses for our students to take through LinkedIn Learning. So every week we are launching out 15 new courses for our student staff to earn wages. So today we launched it out to our whole department staff. We were just piloting it with a group of students over the past week. So we identify these courses for them, and then there's an average of about 15 hours per week that they can take. Optional, but it's just a method for them to be able to continue to earn wages remotely. So that's how we've launched it out.
Wow, that's great. And the fact that you can pay your students up to 15 hours, I think is fantastic, because as we all know, our students are out of work and they're living off those wages. So that's great, Erica, that you can offer that. I see Becky Todd, who's part of Chrissy and Matt's student development group, is also diving into LinkedIn Learning. Becky, if you don't mind, can you kind of share a little bit about that via the chat, or if you unmute yourself, if you want to speak to that, that'd be great.
Sure. Becky Todd from the University of Arkansas. We're taking a really hybrid approach. We're aiming for 5 to 8 hours a week centrally for student staff to earn hours, and then their program areas can do additional trainings on top of that. We're knocking out a lot of required trainings from the university and using Blackboard for some department competency work, and then supplementing all of that with LinkedIn Learning videos. The benefit of LinkedIn Learning is many of them produce a certificate at the end, and the student can screenshot it to indicate that they've made it all the way through the video series or whatever it is that they're looking at, and submit that as proof that they've completed.
That's great. Thank you, Becky. It's good to see you. Okay. Let's see. We had a question from Leslie. For LinkedIn Learning, are you paying for access in the addition to their hours? Yeah, I'm curious about that, is because I'm not familiar with LinkedIn Learning. Is that something you have to pay for, or is that something that's free? I don't know if anyone, Becky, can you comment on that?
Yeah, that our campus automatically gives all of our students access to LinkedIn Learning, so they don't have to pay for that because it's free access with their UARC email address.
Got it.
Yeah, I agree. That's how it is. I'm seeing in the chat, and then that's how it is at UC Berkeley as well.
Okay.
And I do want to note, just for those who joined late to this call, welcome. This is being recorded if you feel like you maybe missed something at the beginning of the call and joined us a little bit later. So just know that this is all being recorded and will be posted later today or tomorrow.
And Earl, I want to say one thing before we move on. I know there were a lot of questions at the beginning about what does remote work look like for students at this time? And while we may not have the time to cover it right here, I did want to make sure people know that there is a document that Alex Cito at Stanford is kind of compiling that has a bunch of ideas or what other schools are doing at this time. I'll post a link in the chat. We've also added a section, or I've added a section about what does remote work look like on your campus. And I'd love to get more input for you all. So if you can, there's a way you can edit that document. So feel free to go in and edit it, and we can share some ideas that way.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, and that is assessment. And this could be broad, whatever direction we want to take it, but how are you measuring the learning that is taking place within your student development programs? Chrissy or Matt, you want to kick us off to get some ideas?
Yeah, so we recently this year started an initiative called, ironically, Rec Talks, before NIRSA headquarters announced their Rec Talks as part of the Rec Chat. I don't know if you all have seen that. But it actually, I don't know if anyone has heard about the Iowa Grow program, but Iowa is really a pioneer in having tools for student affairs professionals to engage with their student employees and then convey the connection of their academic and post-grad career goals to their current work in their department of choice. So for us at Rec Sports, it's been really integral to start conveying that message, especially at UC Berkeley, which is such a heavy research institution where a lot of our students are not going into sport management or potentially probably not choosing careers in rec sports. So for us, we wanted to one, put the framework in place to start having conversations and enabling supervisors to have those conversations with their student employees. But a part of that is assessment. So that's what we do is we utilize the Iowa Grows assessment platform for their Iowa Grow conversations, and we do that semesterly. And then another assessment that we do is in correlation to our core competencies for our department. And so we recently started that assessment model in the last summer, and we sent that to our student employees and just started putting those conversations or those core competencies in a place that can be measured, and then we'll be doing that on a semesterly basis moving forward. So those are the two assessment platforms that we're utilizing for our student employees currently.
Great. I know Mallory has been a part of the Iowa Grow program, as she has given me a lot of good information on that. So Mallory, can you share kind of the Iowa Grow program as you see it for your department?
Yeah, so my name is Mallory Valentine. I'm at the University of Iowa. Iowa Grow is a division-wide initiative. It stands for Guided Reflection on Work, and we have a series of 4 questions that we ask our students each semester. There are supplemental questions because, as you can imagine, with veteran students, these questions can become repetitive after time, so there are additional questions available. But our supervisors are actually using this time as a way to connect with our students individually and still asking those questions through Zoom. And so they're setting up 15-minute meetings to connect with the students, check in, see how they're doing, because we know it's an emotional time, as we've seen with that word cloud. But it's a great opportunity to help your students think about their experience and how it connects to the future in their employment as well as their academics. And I can send out the link through here as well.
Yeah, I want to also add, Earl, that we also have licensed Grow from Iowa, who's been really awesome to pretty much license that out to anybody that wants to get access to it. So it's a great thing. Also, we've changed it up as well too. So we have our own co-curricular competencies that we map to a different, we focus on 2 a semester, and we map those into the Grow conversations. And so we say, with these focus on these competencies, we're going to ask questions around those as a part of the Grow conversation. And that's great to mix it up for students as well. And I also want to say, behind a little bit of the theory, small t theory behind this is that this is experiential learning, and we know that reflection for students is one of the best ways to capture their learning. And so these Grow conversations are really powerful in helping students step out of their day-to-day work and think through those connections that are really helpful. I've had students come back and say, I was so glad I had that conversation because it helped me connect things and do well in an interview that I got asked that exact same question. So it can be a really powerful tool.
And I'll also add so while Iowa is super great in licensing out their the Grow materials and technology, they also allow for you to customize it to your department, so you don't have to go through the licensing and trademarking process of that. If that's too complicated, I know for us at UC Berkeley, sometimes going through the whole licensing process can take a long time. So if you're wanting to start the initiative and not actually utilize the Iowa Grow name, you are able to do that. And then something just kind of that I thought of as Matthew was talking is that something that we've done with the Rec Talks program is we have incorporated a lot of those transferable and soft skills that are learned on the job into our new employee orientations. So from day 1 when they're coming in, or month 1, theoretically, when they're coming into our department, we're starting those conversations about what those transferable skills are, so that as they're going into their work, they're not just seeing it as an exchange of I need work, or I need a paycheck, you need work done. This is how my participation or my involvement with your department is really benefiting me in a long-term space, in a forward-thinking space as well, so that they're able to translate that too. If someone was to ask them on the job, why do you like working with rec sports? What is it doing for you? They're able to say, oh, well, I'm learning leadership development, community building, teamwork, things like that.
That's great. I see in the chat that, Mallory put her contact information from Iowa in terms of information that she can share with if you're thinking about launching the program. Again, if you go to that website, it's very detailed. They pretty much walk you through everything. And again, just another good way to measure some learning that's happening and tying in that academic piece with the experiential piece. So thank you for that. Let's see, anything else on assessment? I actually want to throw something else out there. I don't know if anyone else does this, but at the University of Maryland College Park, we annually send out a graduation senior survey to our graduating seniors. And so we use that data to kind of get at what students are learning as a result. And I see Bob Gao from here kind of does the same thing, where we use the NACE core competencies as some of the things that we ask our students to reflect on in terms of what they've learned as a result of working for us, which kind of segues into the next talking point, which is NACE career readiness competencies and people who are using it. So Bob, I know you just chatted something out. Can you talk a little bit about how you're implementing the NACE employment competencies as a part of self-assessment?
Sure. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Bob.
Hello. So we use a self-assessment as part of our performance evaluation process for student employees, and we use the Qualtrics for that particular assessment tool. So after we go through the performance job duties, our self-assessment is broken up into 3 parts, essentially. The job duties is the first part. The outcomes as to what we want them to learn during the job. And then the last part is measuring that experience against the NACE career competencies. So we cover a lot during that one-on-one meeting with each employee. When we get to that part, we explain to them that there's no wrong answer to those assessments. We use a standard Likert scale, strongly agree to strongly disagree. And then we help them tie their experience in the job to those career competencies. So we frame the conversation in a way that says, if a potential employer was to ask you, how does this job working at the rec center improve your ability to critically think? How would you answer that question? And then we give suggestions, we give ideas, we go through each one of those career competencies.
Great. All right, thank you for sharing that, Bob. Anyone else would like to chime in about the NACE core competencies?
I can.
Yeah, Jonathan, go ahead. I saw you just chatted.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Rivera, fitness coordinator for Weber State University's Campus Recreation. This semester, we're having our students complete the NACE Career Ready Guide as well. In semesters past, we used to do a completely different evaluation process. We had our own supplemental staff evaluation talking about creating community, risk management, workplace skills, and experiential learning. But this semester, student affairs departments are collaborating with our Career Resource Center to roll out the NACE Career Ready Guide. We're using this semester as a test bed, so that way we can further expand this throughout campus, because our director for career services, he envisioned the NACE Career Guide as a part of every academic class. So that way we can better prepare our students for that transition from their student experience to their paraprofessional experience, or in their professional experience, whether they go to grad school or to their careers respectively. So within Campus Rec, after the student completes their Career Ready Guide, we pay them for 4 hours at the training wage. And next week, we are setting up evaluation meetings with our students just to check on them, but also allowing them to speak on their core competencies that they have highlighted in our evaluation survey. But then we're going to use this as a time to create like mini mock interviews, so that way we can prepare our students on how they can best share their narrative in applying the core competencies to their respective roles.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else would like to comment on NACE? I see Marie from Oakland. What's up, Marie? I see that they're using it. Marie, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. So a few years ago, redesigned the job descriptions. And what we found when we were meeting with students was that they really, if they were to speak about their job, they were really speaking more about the tasks. And I'm sure we've all seen that. And so what I found is by redesigning the job descriptions and putting the bullets of the tasks or the items that they would do under the competencies, and they could really prepare the resume in a correct way by saying, you know, showcase strong leadership skills by, you know, and list those things instead of just the bullets. You know, demonstrated, you know, excellent communication skills by, or worked with a team of 60 staff members too. And they're really just starting to utilize in their bullets and in talking points for their interview, those competencies, instead of, as we've all seen sometimes, swiped in members or, you know, things like that. So that was a really good start. We then worked with Career Services to institute 2 mandatory paid training sessions. One was a first and second year experience session for our freshmen and sophomores. It was a workshop just for our students, highlighting all the competencies or skills employers seek, as we called the workshop, and going over their job description. We utilized, again, Career Services to come in and present that with us, because we found as we co-presented, it was something that we could really highlight their experience with, and Career Services could be that expert on the competencies. And then we instituted a junior senior seminar to really help them articulate what they learned, to prep them for interviewing, and answer all those questions, even about salary negotiation and insurance and things that they don't think about, wages. And again, I co-presented that with a Career Services professional, so that we could really give them the full picture of what they'd be doing. We also found our students didn't really go to Career Services, and although they could come to us to kind of help them with their resume and specific jobs, they also really needed to utilize Career Services. And so getting them face-to-face with somebody from Career Services, we found really helped our students be more likely to go do a mock interview or go to the person specific to the career path they were going to get some more resources for internships or job postings.
What? Marcy?
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate how you are collaborating with, you know, Career Services. I think that's a super important thing to think about, is who are the experts that we can partner with. So I'm getting a couple of chats here about just some questions. So I want to honor some of the participants. So I'm going to pause from what we're talking about now. And Matt Cullum, I think you have a question, so I don't want to not do this justice, but do you want to ask your question to the group to maybe talk about for a few minutes?
Sure. So my big thing, we were obviously sent back from, a lot of the students were sent back home, and it'd be awesome if we could connect with them and get buy-in super easily from them. But there's a lot of students that are graduating that have kind of lost their desire to stay more involved with their on-campus job and things like that in Campus Rec. And then there's other students that, you know, their focus just lies elsewhere. So what are we doing to kind of keep those students more involved and get actual buy-in from them?
So thoughts on Matt's question about getting buy-in. We have students who are graduating and we have lost interests and not bombarding them. Are there any strategies or thoughts about that level of engagement of our students during this time?
Hey, Matt, my immediate thought is we know that students want to continue to feel a sense of community. And so, you know, one thing is regular staff meetings. So whatever habits, whatever routine you had with students before, how can we keep doing those routines? So I know I have a actually pretty small staff that I supervise, but they really appreciated just seeing face-to-face on Zoom, being able to see everybody. Or can you encourage them to do one-on-one check-ins, that type of thing? Or can you like have them engage on social media? So I think those are the types of things that just build community and keep that community going, because I know that students that don't feel a part of a community are less likely to be retained in a job.
Hey Earl, Cheyenne Klaus here. I'm a fitness GA at Ole Miss and also the NIRSA student leader. So a couple of things that I'm doing with my staff is trying to just keep it fun and light. There's a lot of like serious things going on. So we're doing different things in our group me. We did like meet your pet day. So you could like introduce your pet to the entire staff via video or picture, kind of whatever you wanted to do. We did a throwback Thursday yesterday. We are doing a meme Monday, so creating a meme out of your favorite picture from work or kind of whatever that is, and hopefully getting them engaged lightheartedly. So then when we start bringing more intense and meaningful content to them, they're paying attention.
Thanks, Cheyenne, and awesome job on your virtual roundtable the other day.
Thanks.
I'm curious to know if there's students in this chat right now that could speak to Matt's question, because I think it's important that we ask students, right? Like we can have these assumptions of what we think they need, but is there any students out there that like Cheyenne that want to comment on Matt's question about engagement?
I can comment for myself as a student versus a supervisor to get this conversation started. So I have a very open door policy with my supervisor. I can kind of walk in and ask her questions as I need to. So we've kept that going, and I kind of can call her during her office hours and like chat about whatever it might be that I want to talk about. So my comp exam that I'm kind of working on right now, or just like a TV show that I'm watching, whatever it might be, just to talk about life still versus always having it being work. We've actually made like specific meeting times to just talk about life. So on Friday afternoons, we just chat for 30 minutes about whatever I want to talk about.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mike Bricker, you have your hand raised. If you'd like to comment. I'm sorry if I interrupted someone. Mike?
Here we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Mike.
Okay. All right. What I did with chiming in on the seniors kind of losing interest in, I mean, our graduation has been postponed. Our chancellor has come out and said that they probably won't even get a chance to walk until early fall. Morale really dropped over the last couple of days. But what I have been doing, and UNLV, I'm in charge of facilities and special events, but I also supervise all our building managers, which are all student staff leaders, and I'm huge in leadership development. But what I did was I took and I only have 6 seniors that are in my group. So I took the group of building managers and I divided them up into 6 groups, and I took each graduating senior and gave them a little bit more responsibility. And we chat 2 or 3 times a day amongst each other. But they're running our student staff projects that are for while we're off or while we're closed. and we're getting some really awesome work out of them. But to get the buy-in, I gave them a project of creating projects. So it seemed to be working out very well. We've got quarantine and chill. We've got movies list for the weekends. We have workouts. We have a lot of really neat stuff. One thing I did want to chime in on as well, the LinkedIn Learning was not something we have been looking at, and I'm going to look at that today. So thank you, whoever brought that up.
Excellent. Mike, thank you so much for your comments. That's great that your ideas are awesome. All right, let's move on to the next topic of discussion, and that's leadership development. And so the question that we have is, what frameworks do you use? I know a lot of folks are into Gallup Strengths. I know I am. The Student Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner, Social Change Model. What are some leadership development frameworks that you use in developing your student leaders?
If I may.
Sure, go for it, Mike.
Okay. I really like the Gallup Strength Finder, but for a really quick assessment, when the students are even applying during post-application and actually before an offer, I have them to go to a website called High Five to find out their top 5 strengths. It's free. It takes a little bit of time, but living in this realm, I kind of already, I have a pretty good estimate of where they're going to fall. I just want to make sure. And then the social change model, kind of live in that space as well. But I also, for anybody that knows me, you know me, my favorite thing is to say, who are you? So we develop that as far as, who are you? And not just, oh, my name's Mike, I like long walks in the park, and I prefer dogs over cats. I try to develop the students into, knowing who they are. That way, when they are asked their strengths, they can talk about core competencies and core strengths, and then they can talk about supplemental strengths, and they can talk about, their weakness and how they're working on that. So, Gallup is good, but Gallup costs money. High Five is great, and it's free. So, thank you.
That's great, Mike. Thanks for sharing those, especially the free options, because, again, to our point earlier, not everyone has access to these paid services. I saw a question on here that I wanted to just ask the question. Someone mentioned the relational leadership model. And I don't know who you were. I might have lost you in the chat.
Hey, that was me here. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, Jason?
Hey, so we use the relational leadership model, which is like 5 components of kind of people working together. We moved that into a class with 5 different modules, and we've actually moved those modules onto Canvas now, so all of our students can access them. And so it's a relatively newer leadership model, and it kind of talks about ethics and inclusion and empowerment, being purposeful. And as a part of that, they also take Gallup Strength Finder. And so it used to be a leadership course where our supervisors would take it, but now we've actually opened it up for the whole staff and put it on Canvas, so they can actually earn hours during this break period to do it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jason. Folks who are using Gallup Strengths, how are you using that within your student employment workforce? See a few people using Gallup Strengths here. We have Tony North Jr. using the Student Leadership Challenge. Tony, you want to comment on how you're embedding that into your department?
Hi, can everybody hear me?
What's up, Tony?
How we doing? Yeah, so we've unfortunately this year we didn't really have a chance to use it. We run a semester leadership series where we meet with our cohorts, if you will, once a month, in the spring semester, and we typically roll that out during our leadership series. In the past, we've used it as kind of a self-assessment and built a lot of our programming around it, which is connecting with community partners and campus partners on the various topics that the Leadership Challenge covers. So unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to do that this year with everything that's kind of taking place with COVID and everything, but that's how we've used it in the past, and that's how we're going to continue to use it going forward.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you to Katie Thomas for sharing some links. I see the highfivetest.com is on there, so thank you so much for that. Just as a reminder that this will be recorded, so if you jumped on late, the chat feature and all that stuff will be uploaded on the NIRSA site, probably by the end of the day today, if not tomorrow. Okay, we got a few more minutes left. So I kind of just wanted to maybe just table student learning outcomes and allow anyone to ask a question that, you know, has been kind of lingering through this process. Again, our goal was not to just go through everything. We couldn't possibly do that, but I think between Matt, Chrissy, and I will look at the chat and see if there's other virtual roundtables to be offered, because I see a lot of things like banquets and recognition, and I think that's all important. So why don't we just open it up? Like, if you have a question that you want to get feedback from the group, we have about 5 minutes. Unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, this is Lizette at Montclair State. We have a couple hundred students still living on campus, whether they're international students or that's their permanent residence. They were allowed to stay on campus. A few of which are our students, our student leaders. But I'm just wondering if anyone else is facing that, and if so, you know, how are you targeting them specifically, if you are at all?
Any thoughts on Lizette's question?
Lizette, that's a fascinating question. I'm dumbfounded because I just didn't think of it. We have approximately 200 students still living on campus, and I'm not sure if any of my students are our students. I can't say my students are in the res hall still. I'm going to immediately send out a blast afterwards to find out if there are. Thanks for bringing that up.
Let me know how it goes.
I see a lot of people are talking. A lot of people are talking about. Oh, actually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to respond to Lisette again. At Ohio State, we have approximately like 1,700 still on campus, so that's a large number to try and still engage. I know, you know, fitness, we're thinking about how do we push out some things on social media that get people outdoors and working out, obviously because our facilities are closed. Almost every building on campus is closed and they don't want us on campus. And then I think in terms of student development, we're trying to engage them in any other way that we would engage any other student. So kind of having people accessed equitably.
All right. So here are some of the other possible topics to discuss moving forward. Again, you know, this is a collaborative effort, and we're willing to take the lead on offering some more sessions around these topics. So if any of these sound interesting to you, let us know so we can maybe offer it in the future. But again, these are just some of the things that we felt fell into the student development kind of bucket moving forward. And so, okay, well, I want to be mindful of time. It is close to 11 a.m. here on the East Coast. So I just wanted to say thank you again for everyone participating here today. It was really good to see some familiar faces. Our contact information is right here below. So feel free to reach out. I saw a couple people privately message me, so I'll get to those responses. But email us, especially if you want to be a part of Christina and Matt's group regarding student staff development. And then just as a kind of takeaway, my direct supervisor at the University of Maryland shared with us something that was posted on this Facebook whiteboard for psychology. And as we kind of go through the new normal, as they call it, we need to be mindful just to take a pause and remember to breathe, that give yourself some grace, that, you know, we can't do it all. But when it comes to serving our students, hopefully that's something that you're paying attention to and focusing in on. And so I hope that these ideas that came out today are something that you can just use as to plant little nuggets that you can continue to water and grow. And maybe when we get back, you can start implementing it, but take care of yourself first and foremost. And we see that a lot from NIRSA, especially our president, Leah, and just, you know, take time for you, go outside, stay hydrated, exercise, and eat well. And so Christina and Matt, do you have any final things that you want to mention before we jump off this?
No, I think I've been looking in the chat, and I will continue to debrief and look in the chat on those comments that people have mentioned of doing future roundtables on. Just thank you for allowing us to have space today. I think everyone is grateful for human interaction. So just find ways to stay connected. If you have any thoughts, feel free to ping any of us with ideas on roundtables or discussion topics. But thank you all for being here and just sharing your ideas. It's been so informative.
Matt, any last minute?
Not anything too earth-shattering, but just thank you. If you enjoyed this, we would love to keep having these potentially monthly or quarterly, something that Christy and I are organizing. So again, please be in touch with us.
All right. Well, on behalf of everyone at NIRSA, thank you so much. Be well, everyone. Take care.